17-year-old Rachel Partridge lived in the village of Chinner in Oxfordshire. Rachel had just started an apprenticeship as a dental laboratory technician working at Rowan's Dental Labs. She had joined the company straight from school, and the boss was so impressed with how quickly she had picked up her new role and how hardworking she was. Rachel still lived with her parents in the countryside of Chinner, only a mile away from Chinner village. Rachel was the youngest of her two siblings, with her older two sisters had already left home. Rachel had a boyfriend who she spent a lot of her free time with. The couple had met at school, and in 3 days' time they were looking forward to their first holiday together in Italy. That Tuesday evening, on the 25th of August 1987, Rachel had gone to visit her boyfriend. They sat on the sofa and chatted about their upcoming holiday, reminding each other not to forget their passports, when there was a beep of a car horn outside. It was Rachel's mum who had come to pick her up. Rachel did not want to keep her mum waiting, so she jumped up, gave her boyfriend a kiss, and ran out to meet her mum. During the journey home, Rachel expressed to her mother that she had plans that night. She did not want to go straight home and asked her mum if she could drop her off at a friend Alex's house. Rachel wanted to go and use her friend's sunbed before she went away to Italy. Now, her mum needed to get home as her dad desperately needed the car, so she could not offer to take her to her friend's house. Rachel asked if she could borrow the car, but again, the answer was no, as her dad needed the car as he had arranged to go for a meeting. Rachel was frustrated. She did not want to go straight home, so her mother turned around, headed back to the village, leaving Rachel there, where Rachel caught a lift to Alex's house to use the sunbed. After using her friend's sunbed, Rachel had a problem of getting home. Her boyfriend heard that she was still somewhere in the village, and knowing there were no more buses back to her house, he came out on his bike looking for her. Ironically, he drove straight past the road where Rachel was. Now, Rachel said goodbye to her friend. She walked back to the main road, and now she had no way of getting home unless she hitched a lift. Back then, there were no mobile phones, and she didn't have enough money for a taxi. The buses were no longer running, and her dad had taken the car. 15 minutes later, Rachel was seen thumbing a lift on Chinner Road, just passing the railway bridge. She was walking in the direction of home. The Chinner Road was a busy one, and moments later she was seen again by a couple who were driving quite slowly along Chinner Road as they were looking for an address. They turned around at the Garden City roundabout, and as they drove back up Chinner Road, they noticed a white van was parked up, right where the young girl had been previously walking. The couple felt that the van was white in colour, a smallish van with only one headlight working, and as they got close, they saw a girl inside the van. It was the girl they'd seen walking and thumbing a lift. She was chatting to the driver. Now, just after 9 p.m, another motorist saw Rachel in her distinctive brown suede jacket, stood at the grass verge near to Garden City roundabout. By now, there were 6 miles between Rachel and her home. She was scared of the dark, and it was starting to get quite dark outside, so she must have been quite concerned there on her own. Back in Chinner, her boyfriend was wondering why Rachel had not called him. By now it was 10:30. She told him that she would call him later, but when she did not call, her boyfriend began to become concerned. Now, eventually, after calling different numbers, he did manage to get hold of the friend that Rachel had visited, the one with the sunbed. She had explained that Rachel had left the house. There was some info about Rachel maybe stopping off at the Three Horseshoes pub, so her boyfriend jumped on his bike and again went out looking for Rachel. He drove around to the pub and checked it out, but Rachel was not there, so after driving around fruitlessly again, by 11 p.m, he just drove home. That night, Rachel never made it home, and no one would ever see her alive again, as the following morning, 7 miles from Tame and 2.5 miles from Rachel's home on the outskirts of Chinner, a body was found in Bledlow Ridge. 2 farm workers had noticed what looked like a person or a body in the corner of the barn, and as they ran to the farmhouse and rang the police, they didn't realise at the time that they'd discovered the naked body of a young female. There were obvious signs of injuries to her head and neck. Rachel had been struck in the face with a heavy, blunt instrument. She'd been essayed and asphyxiated. Roy Payne headed up the inquiry, bringing the case to the BBC show Crime Watch. They wanted anyone who had travelled along the road from Thame to Bledlow Ridge during that evening or early morning to come forward. Anyone who may have spoken to her or given her a lift that night to come forward, or anyone who saw her being given a lift to also come forward. Police were also trying to trace the white van seen by the couple with Rachel inside, as despite Rachel being seen after the conversation with the van driver, police wanted to trace the driver to ask him what the conversation was about. Police needed to speak with anyone who would have had any reason to be anywhere near that barn, anyone who frequently drove over to the farm or knew that it existed, as police believed that she'd been taken there due to the local knowledge of the barn and the area. Now, apparently 3 weeks prior to Rachel's body being found there in the barn, during the early hours of the morning, a small white Ford Fiesta was seen near the farm, leaving that area. It was seen driven by a young man. Now, he was described as being about 20 years of age, athletic build, about 6 feet tall, with dark hair, dark clothing, and a thick gold necklace with a cross. Now, inside the barn, forensics were able to recover the plaster cast of a foot impression. No shoe, no boot, but the actual foot that they believe could have possibly been the reconstruction of the foot belonging to the man responsible for her murder. The foot size was apparently a size 8 to 8.5, but they believed that due to the width of the foot being quite wide, that the man may have needed to take up to a size 10 in shoes or boots. Now, some tyre tracks were also found outside the barn, and police believed that they were of a Lee Conquest economy tyre. And police were also looking for anyone who had these tyres on their vehicle and had visited the barn or farm during this period. An appeal was set up by the local community to raise money towards a reward fund. And the sheer shock and devastation as it sunk into the family that Rachel was never going to come home. Her mother wondered if she had just taken her home that night, would this ever have happened? Her father wondered if he had never have gone to that meeting that night and she could have had the car, would this ever have happened? But it was none of their fault. They could not have stopped this from happening. Rachel was a 17-year-old young woman who had an independent life of her own now, and she made choices that would ultimately lead to her death. Eventually, a local man named Ronald Cheshire from Thame in Oxfordshire was arrested and charged with Rachel's murder. Now, due to the crime happening as far back as 1987, there is little documented about how police knew who to look for, what his involvement was, and what evidence they had against him at the time. As the internet was a thing of the future, any TV news reports had been and gone a long time ago. But according to court documents, Ronald Cheshire of Thame had been serving a life sentence for murdering Rachel Partridge back in 1987, and then officers from the Major Crime Review team working with the Crown Prosecution Service and Forensic Science Service uncovered new forensic evidence, which led to the arrest and charge of Ronald Cheshire again on the 7th of April 2010. Now, after new forensic evidence was uncovered regarding a further crime after Rachel in 1980, Ronald pleaded guilty earlier in 2010, where he had apparently essayed a 15-year-old girl in Maidenhead, Berkshire in 1980. The court heard how two 15-year-old girls had been walking in Switchback Road North in Maidenhead back in May 1980 when they had been approached by Ronald Cheshire in his car. He had got out, tried to grab both of the girls, but one of them had escaped. The other girl, who cannot be named for legal reasons, was taken away and seriously assaulted. Ronald will now serve 9 years after completing his current sentence, which will run concurrently to the 9-year sentence for RAPE. He was also ordered to stay on the SEX offenders register, where Ronald pleaded guilty to the offence in court for the 15-year-old girls back in 1980. The Crown prosecution case lawyer Jane Davis said, Ronald Cheshire has not shown any remorse for any of his crimes, despite it stretching back that many years, but he has now been brought to justice.